What's up, YouTube world? Peace, blessings to you from Nocturnal Thoughts. This one right now is gonna be right straight top off the dome, even though my dome is gone right now. So let me say first and foremost, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. And I literally just found out about this like within the last 10 minutes. But I said, let me go ahead and crank out this video and get it out the way before I go about my day. But rest in peace and salute to Kobe Bryant. It's very tragic and unfortunate and definitely unexpected. My condolences to his fans and his family and his friends. Just sad because it's very close to home, close in age, and right now that's just heavy. So right off the top of the dome, I want to talk about boxing. Last night was a great night of boxing. Had Danny Swift Garcia versus Ivan, what was his name? The Killer, Red Catch. And then you had Swift, Hurd Swift versus Francisco Chia Santana. And then we had Steven, Cool Boy Steph Fulton, and he took on Hey Guy. Decent night of boxing. There were no unexpected surprises in the boxing world. I believe that card played out as expected. First of all, Steph, Cool Boy Steph, salute to the beard. Bow. He did his thing. He put on the show. I think that was the best fight of the night. He did face some adversity, man. He came out on fire. He came out, everything was working for him for the first two and a half rounds. His jab was on point. Everything was on point. And then he got slammed with the jiu-jitsu slam. And I think that completely discombobulated him for about 2 or 3 rounds. After that, man, it started to be a shift. And Haggai was landing some very powerful shots. And I thought for a second that he might be in trouble. He was able to, as a champion, recalibrate himself, or should I say as a warrior mentality. He was able to recalibrate himself, put himself back in the fight, and can completely dismantle and dominate that fight. And he came out with a victory. So salutes to Cool Boy Steph. Shouts out to the beard. Performance was great. I think it was the fight of that night. World champion Swift Jared Hurd was pretty much doing his official comeback after his loss against Julian J-Rock Williams. And you could tell he was, working on his new, improved, revised version of Swift Jared Hurd. Like he said, he didn't want to try to get fights of the night where his defense was basically using his face as a punching bag. He wanted to, work on his defense. He wanted to work on his countering. He wanted to work on being in the pocket and doing slick moves to outpoint his man and win every round more decisively. He was taking on Francisco Chia Santana, and I have to salute this dude because anybody that's like me, I have to salute Santana. He's a working man. That man had a full-time gig, would train before he went to work, would work a full-time gig, and then go train some more. So if that don't impress you, if you can't salute that, you can't salute nothing. Anybody that's out there that's boxing and working a full-time gig, a labor gig at that, he was pretty impressive. He just didn't have the tools to handle a guy like Swift. He was too small. He was too one-dimensional. He didn't have enough craftiness, but he did land some good shots. I think it was good work for Swift Jared Hurd, who was basically, trying to figure out his new mechanics. To me, he's still very slow, and I couldn't see him taking on a Jermell Charlo with that type of a performance. I feel like he could have bulldozed and steamrolled Francisco Chia Santana if he chose to, but that would have been pretty much, going against the purpose of what this fight was about. This fight was about him basically going back to the fundamentals and relearning how to do some things in the ring that were more for longevity, that would basically kind of transition him into a better boxer, when he's able to combine the best of both worlds, where he can bang in the pocket with you and avoid taking as much punishment. So salutes to his victory. I think it was a good shot, a good performance. I know that the crowd was starting to get a little bit, they were booing I think in the 7th and 8th rounds. By that time, I think they were getting kind of, they wanted to see a little bit more action. He did have a knockdown in the last round at the last minute. And I don't know if that was just due to Francisco was, kind of throwing caution to the wind, and, pretty much got caught with that uppercut at the last minute. I kind of don't want to give Swift Jarrett Hurd too much credit for that knockdown, even though I feel like he could have, if he wanted to, put in a lot more work and got him out of there earlier if he wanted to. That would have went against the purpose. I think he looked good, but I still feel like his mechanics are still a little bit, his reflexes and his mechanics are still a little bit slower than what I thought they would be. And some things I feel like you just can't fix. You know what I'm saying? But I did see some improvement, but I did see some things that I wasn't too impressed by. Then we had Danny Garcia, who's, trying to put his names in the likings of Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao, Terrence Bud Crawford. He's trying to come off of his redemption against Sean Porter and Keith Thurman, which I still want to say that he won that fight against Keith Thurman in my book. I had to go back and watch that again, but that was a pretty close fight. It could have went either way, but I think he did a lot of work in that fight. Anyways, he fought against Ivan Redkach. And Redkach, man, I think he's a good, solid fighter, but he didn't really pose much of a threat. Later in that fight, I thought he was about to get put away, but he does have grit. He is a champion, a warrior, should I say. He has a warrior mentality. In my opinion, this is just my personal opinion, a warrior mentality is almost equivalent to a champion's mentality, especially in comparison to the way people are nowadays. So maybe that's why I keep having that slip of saying champion. But he has a warrior's mentality. He was game the whole fight up until the 12th round. And I think that some people were giving Danny Garcia a little bit of flack because they felt like he should have got rid of, Ivan. It's like, if the dude don't belong in a ring with you, you're supposed to get him out of there. But there was no knockouts, there was no knockdowns, just more of a dominant fight. He had his way the whole night. Ivan being a southpaw, I think that kind of was more of the blame for not being able to dominate him and knock him down with his signature punch, that hook that Danny Garcia landed on Granados. He was not able to really be efficient and effective with that punch. But other than that, Danny Garcia looked great to me, the way he would parry off a lot of shots and then counter. But all in all, no, it wasn't boring. It wasn't a boring matchup, but it did fizzle out at the end. The last couple of rounds kind of was. But that's boxing. You have those nights. At the end of the day, like I said, there were no upsets. Everybody that we thought was going to win won, and it was a good night of boxing. What's next for these guys? I would still like to see Swift Jarrett Hurd take on Jermell Charlo or get his rematch with Julius J. Rock. Danny Garcia is campaigning for Manny Pacquiao or Errol Spence. Nothing that he showed me in that fight to me looked like he was in, we'll talk about that later. As far as Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence, we'll talk about that later. Danny Garcia versus Manny Pacquiao, we'll talk about that later. Swift Jarrett Hurd, what's in the future for him? We'll get to that in a later date. That's a conversation for another day. I don't want to make this video too long. I just want to say good night of boxing. Like I said before, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. I salute. Matter of fact, take my hat off for the man. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Appreciate your life. Go out there, hug on your family, hug on your babies, kiss your wife, kiss your girlfriend. Live your life to the fullest. It's very fragile. Nocturnal Thoughts. I appreciate y'all time. I'm out. Peace.